In the golden sands of ancient Egypt, one name was deliberately erased from history. A ruler so powerful that those who came after tried to wipe away every trace of their existence. This is the story of Hatshepsut, the woman who became king, one of ancient Egypt's most successful pharaohs who ruled during the 18th dynasty and transformed Egyptian civilization through her unprecedented 22-year reign as female pharaoh. Born around 1507 BCE, Hatshepsut was the daughter of Thutmose I, one of Egypt's greatest warrior pharaohs, and his primary wife, Queen Hammuz. Royal blood flowed through her veins from both sides, a rarity that gave her the legitimacy she would need to claim the throne of ancient Egypt. When her father died, the throne passed to her half-brother, Thutmose II, and following royal tradition, Hatshepsut married him, becoming Queen of Egypt. But Thutmose II was weak and sickly, and behind the throne, Hatshepsut's influence over Egyptian governance grew stronger each year. When Thutmose II died, he left behind only a young son from a minor wife, a boy named Thutmose III, who was barely more than an infant and too young to rule the kingdom of Egypt. Hatshepsut stepped forward as regent for her stepson, but being regent wasn't enough for this ambitious Egyptian woman. Within 7 years, Hatshepsut made a decision that would shock the ancient world and change Egyptian history forever. She declared herself pharaoh, not queen, but queen of Egypt, claiming the full power and authority traditionally reserved for men and becoming one of the few female pharaohs in ancient Egyptian history. To legitimize her unprecedented rule as female pharaoh, Hatshepsut crafted a brilliant propaganda campaign. She claimed that the god Ammon himself had fathered her, appearing to her mother in the form of Thutmose I, establishing divine birth and her right to rule Egypt. In statues and reliefs throughout Egypt, she depicted herself with the traditional false beard of the pharaohs and wore the royal kilt and nemes headdress. She even used masculine pronouns in inscriptions, calling herself His Majesty rather than Her Majesty. But Hatshepsut never pretended to be a man. She was a woman claiming a man's role, and everyone in ancient Egypt knew it. This was about power and legitimacy, not deception. Her reign brought Egypt into a golden age of prosperity that lasted more than 2 decades. While previous pharaohs had been warriors who expanded Egypt's borders through military conquest, Hatshepsut was a builder and trader who focused on internal development and international commerce. She restored temples damaged during the Hyksos occupation and commissioned hundreds of building projects throughout Egypt, including a magnificent mortuary temple at Deir el-Bahri, carved into the cliffs near the Valley of the Kings. This architectural marvel still stands today as one of the most beautiful monuments of ancient Egypt, testament to Hatshepsut's vision and the skill of her chief architect, Senenmut. Hatshepsut's greatest achievement was the legendary expedition of the land of Punt, a mysterious region along the Red Sea coast, possibly in modern-day Somalia or Yemen. No pharaoh had successfully reached Punt in generations, but Hatshepsut sent 5 large Egyptian ships loaded with trade goods through dangerous waters to this half-mythical land. The expedition returned with treasures beyond imagining: frankincense and myrrh trees, ebony and ivory, gold and exotic animals including baboons and leopards. Living myrrh trees were transplanted to Egypt and planted in the terraced gardens of Amachari temple, an unprecedented horticultural feat. This wasn't just trade, it was a political statement. Egypt was strong and prosperous under female leadership, and Hatshepsut had proven what previous pharaohs could not achieve. The expedition was so important that she had every detail carved onto the walls of her temple at Deir el-Bahri, creating a permanent record of this diplomatic and commercial triumph. For 22 years, Hatshepsut ruled as Pharaoh of Egypt with the kingdom at peace, its treasury full and its monuments rising towards the heavens. She had proven that a woman could hold the highest power in ancient Egypt and rule as effectively as any male pharaoh. But then, Hatshepsut vanishes from historical records around 1458 BCE. Thutmose III, the stepson she had kept from sole power for 2 decades, finally became sole pharaoh of Egypt, and 20 years after her death, the systematic erasure began. Someone, likely Thutmose III himself or officials acting under his orders, began ordering Hatshepsut's name chiseled from monuments throughout Egypt. Her beautiful statues were smashed and thrown into pits. Her cartouches, the oval frames containing her royal names, were replaced with those of her father, husband, or Thutmose III himself. It was a deliberate campaign to erase the female pharaoh from Egyptian history, as if she had never existed. Why did this happen? Was it revenge from Thutmose III? An attempt to restore proper order and erase the anomaly of a female pharaoh? Or political calculation to secure his son's succession by eliminating precedents for female rule? Historians and Egyptologists continue to debate these questions, but the erasure was never complete. Hatshepsut had built too much and achieved too much. A mortuary temple at Deir el-Bahri still stood, too massive to destroy. The reliefs showing the Punt expedition remained partially intact, and buried in the desert sands, a story waited for rediscovery. In 1903, British archaeologist Howard Carter discovered a sarcophagus in tomb KV20 in the Valley of the Kings. In 2007, a mummy was finally identified through DNA analysis. The woman who died in her 50s, possibly from cancer, still bearing traces of skin cream containing carcinogenic ingredients. Hatshepsut's story is one of ambition, intelligence, political genius, and unprecedented power in ancient Egypt. She ruled the greatest civilization on earth through strategic thinking, propaganda mastery, and genuine administrative skill. They tried to erase her from history, to remove every trace of the female pharaoh who dared to claim the double crown of Egypt. They failed. Today, Hatshepsut stands as one of the most successful pharaohs in ancient Egyptian history, recognized by historians, Egyptologists, and people worldwide. She represents what could be achieved when ability and intelligence mattered more than gender in the ancient world. Her name, once chiseled away from monuments throughout Egypt, is now known around the world. The woman who became king has reclaimed her throne in history. A mortuary temple at Deir el-Bahri attracts thousands of visitors annually who marvel at her architectural vision. Her story inspires people globally, particularly women and girls who see in her an example of breaking barriers and achieving greatness despite societal constraints. The female pharaoh who ruled Egypt for 22 years, who sent expeditions to distant lands, who built monuments that still stand after more than 3,000 years, cannot be erased from history. Her achievements speak louder than any attempt at erasure, and her name, Hatshepsut, meaning foremost of noble ladies, has never been more appropriate or celebrated than today. This is our story, remembered truthfully.